Welcome, everybody. My name is Amanda Kunkel, and I am the Universe Liaison. Today, I have my dear colleague, Marianne Udell, on, and I know I've been calling her the grief expert, and there's actually more to it than that. However, I wanted to bring her on today, and I'll have her explain exactly what I'm referring to when I say the grief expert because as business women, whether we are the ones that are in the very beginning phases of starting a business or all the way up to have a full team, anytime grief hits, it takes the wind out of our sails. It can actually knock the business flat on its ass if we aren't prepared. And we don't think about those things because we're so busy with the business. I know intricately about this because when my nephew passed away 8 years ago, suddenly, it completely shifted my whole life and threw me flat on my ass. And well, the beautiful thing was what did transition in my business was fantabulous. There's always a better way to do it. I do not suggest doing it in the way that I did, which was shutting the guy down, shutting the business down and opening up in a brand new way. Have a better plan. And this is what I'm telling you from my experience. And specifically, if you are in a grief right now, and I'm going to hand it over to Marianne now to introduce yourself and to really talk about the different types of grief, because it's not just, hey, a family member died. So Marianne, please introduce yourself and share.
Okay, thanks so much, Amanda. I appreciate you giving me this time on your platform and connecting with your audience. Even though it's really early here in California, I'm really excited to be here with you and to also just share with a lot of the business owners that you connect with about understanding grief a little bit better. You know, it's not just, as you said, when someone dies. You can experience grief when you go through any sort of life transition, whether you lose a job, your business fails, you go through a breakup or a divorce or an illness, or any one of a number of things. Even moving can produce grief. And we just don't talk about it. Even when people die, there is this sense of, I must be broken. There's something wrong with me. I don't want to cause anyone else pain. So there's this tendency not to talk about it. But just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it goes away. Because those feelings are part of your human reaction. It's part of what you're wired to do as a human being, to feel the grief. That's how you process it. And if you shove it aside or push it down, it will still come up at some point. I had a client once who was crying all the time. And she said, I think I need to work with you. And it turns out that her father had died when she was 13. Everybody was worried about her mother, being a single mom of two young kids. And she never got to cry for her father. She didn't get to go to his funeral. She had to be strong for herself and her mother and her brother. And she approached me when she was 70. So all of those years, she had been holding this inside and the tears were coming out. And that happens if you're dealing with stuff in your business. You know, if you're not able to make peace with the past, it's impossible to live fully in the present and then plan for the future. This Saturday, I'm doing a virtual retreat. I did a live retreat. Yay, a live retreat for the first time in a couple of years. And it was really incredible to be able to be with people again and to take them through the process of making peace with the past, getting fully present, and then starting a plan for the future. It happens not just in your life, but in your business. And you can't separate business from life, because who you are in your life is who you bring to your business. And if you want to have an authentic business, you need to bring your authentic self.
And I'm loving how you're saying that right now, because there are a lot of women that are watching that are going, oh, well, I'm a low touch, high tech person. So I have all my funnels set up and I have all these like pre recorded programs and courses that I actually could just like disappear for a while and,
Mhm.
have my VA interact as me. And so, first of all, nothing wrong with that. Like,
Mhm.
totally cool, girlfriend. But there's also the your container, right? The bubble of your business, the bubble of that program is going to feel to anybody reading copy, even if the copy hasn't changed, they're going to feel the living, breathing essence of the business. And if you're not dealing with whatever's going on, the sales are going to start to dwindle. You're going to start getting weird questions. And it's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because you're not fully addressing what is going on, whether it is a
Mhm.
death, a move, a divorce, that sort of thing. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because it really does touch every single person that could be listening and watching
Mhm.
on this feed right now.
It's like putting a band-aid on a major cut, you know, that it's you're not really addressing what the problem is. Oh, I don't have to deal with all this feeling stuff because I'm just going to do all this tech thing and nobody will know that I'm in the corner crying, So it's like, uh, no. And you need to enjoy your business.
Mm.
You need to enjoy your life. And people talk about work-life balance, but I like to think of it as just life balance, because your work is part of your life. It's not a separate thing. You're not a separate person. You behave a little bit differently. Maybe you use your masculine side more whenever you're talking about your business, but you bring your whole self to it. And if you're negating any part of that, it will ring false. It will not have that energetic um, alignment. And you know all about that stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And by the way, anybody listening live or on replay, I keep looking down at my phone because I have the Facebook feed up. So please let me know if you have any questions for Mary Ann as we are talking, because you're going to have some aha moments and some like, oh, wait, I'm curious about. So pop them into the comments. She will loop back around over the next day to answer any questions too, by the way, if you can't be here live with us, but would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I know a lot of the folks that I know on the West Coast probably aren't even up yet.
Yes. Yes.
No, but I think that part of the problem stems from people being afraid to talk about any sort of loss or major change or transition, because there is, I think our culture is so focused on instant gratification, about showing, the social media always great, face forward, and people don't want to consider that they might feel broken, that that's a mistake, that they're doing something wrong, and we don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of my mission to help educate the world and just say it's okay to be human. It's all right to feel the feelings. And in fact, it's not only right, it's essential. That if you want to deal with it, the only way through it is through it. If you approach a tunnel and there's nowhere else to go, you have to go through it to get to the other side. So it's that way when you're dealing with any sort of emotional upset or grief, or um, and acknowledging that any sort of major change or transition is legitimately uh, grief. Some of it takes a little bit longer to deal with, and it's not like you have a sickness, it's not like you have an illness, it's something you have to learn to live with. I was widowed when I was 24, and it was the last thing in the world that I expected. And I have spent my life figuring out how to live with that. And it's a process. It's not something that, bam, all of a sudden, oh, I got through stage 3 and now, okay, 4, 5. No, and it doesn't happen that way. The stages of grief are not a linear process or anything that you follow like a checklist when you're creating a funnel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are, it's just to give people an idea of what they might expect. It was actually created when there was observing people who were in the process of dying. And that's where it comes from. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross created that as she was observing people who were approaching death, not those who were grieving afterwards. But those feelings are what people go through. And there's just, you learn how to live with whatever those feelings are. You process them, you feel them, and then you get present. And then figure out how to go, where to go from there. People try to hang on to the past, try to relive it or second guess themselves. And they miss the present moment, or they're too worried about the future. Well, if I do this, then, oh, there's going to be this that will happen. They catastrophize things, and they miss the present moment that could just give them a little bit of a light bulb. Oh, that's what I really like to do. And I think that's the direction I want to go.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage. And quite often people aren't sure what to do, but mostly everyone needs to be heard and felt like someone understands. And that's part of what I offer as a coach, that a lot of my clients are business owners, and they're really good at their business. But there's something they feel a little niggly about, that there's something that's not quite right. And they might, their personal life might be a mess. And sometimes business is a great way to avoid.
Yes. Yes. Which is sort of what, when my nephew passed away, right? Nobody looked at me as in, watch out for her. She could fall down. They were all worried about his mom. Of course, right? Of course. And so there I was working, and this was how my business was set up at the time, like 60, 70 hours a week, helping take care of his children, because he had, I helped take care of two of them, 4 and 2. And I just dove into my business. And next thing you know, I burst out with an autoimmune disease that put me in bed for 4 to 5 years. That took the doctors about a year or two to figure out. Now, that's not going to happen to everybody, but I ignored all
Right.
the telltale signs, and nobody thought, how's Amanda doing? How's the aunt doing? Because nobody usually has that close of a relationship, but we did.
Right.
So it's about really, having gone through it now, I can recognize some of the symptoms of, I need help. I need to tackle this before.
Right.
I need to reach out to someone like Marianne and be like, hey, I need some help here, right? Because otherwise
Yeah.
It's very easy to just dive into the success of your business and nope, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Blinders.
Well, there's diving into your business, there's getting overly busy, there's substance, sort of muffling whatever is going on. You can do it with food or drink or drugs or a relationship even.
No.
You might it might be I feel this emptiness. I need someone to fill that hole without really knowing that it's right. It's just jumping around looking for something so you don't feel so alone and empty.
And what I love about you is how you're not just fully present like as a person, an entrepreneur, but you have this amazing ability to listen, and you listen through a Zoom screen, by the way, like you're hugging a person. I don't know if anyone shared this with you before, but you are this warm, cozy hug, right? And it's like,
and in person, I give really good hugs.
I bet, yeah. I'll see you when I'm in California.
Yes. Well, thank you for acknowledging that. And, I think that it took a long time for me to really settle into this power that I have. I know that I've always had that empathy. I think being widowed at such a young age, there's just a different understanding that I have of the world and of people, and I can tune in and sense when someone is covering up.
And I'm curious, are there any sort of tips that you can share for, hey, pay attention, you might be masking grief and you need to reach out? Or ooh, there's something coming up. Here's how to kind of prepare. Like, you're going to move, you're going to go through a divorce, your final kid is going off to college. Sort of as in how can people set themselves up for success so they don't end up like me in bed with an autoimmune disease?
Well, I think that it helps to be able to talk about whatever is going on, or to be able to get it out of your head in some way. That some people journal, some people meditate. There's a combination of all of those. And you can talk to a therapist, you can talk to a coach. I think the biggest thing is awareness and allowing. When the feelings come up, sometimes they can be a little overwhelming. It can be scary. And if you need to have somebody with you when you're going through it, having someone who will just be with you without trying to fix you, because there's nothing to fix. You can't change what has happened in the past. And that's part of what happens in the retreat that I do. There's acknowledging things from the past that you can't change. You can't change anything from the past. You have to figure out how to live with it, how to, acknowledge what you can do with the way things are right now. That, okay, my husband died. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Okay, what can I do? Well, I ended up selling my house and moving to New York City from Erie, Pennsylvania. There were a few little mini things that happened in between.
Sure.
But that's eventually where I ended up. And that's where I met my current husband. And we, we just celebrated 34 years of marriage. I know I don't look that old.
No, how can it be 34 years when you're only 32, Marianne?
Exactly. And I think that people have this feeling that just feeling your feelings or dealing with grief or transitions, that I should be all sad and serious, but there is such a release in laughter, in joy, and really appreciating and being grateful that there's the small joys that you have in everyday life. The cup of coffee that you have in the morning, watching the sun come up, or just feeling, yes, you're full.
My fall mug, it makes me so freaking happy.
I just have a plain white one. I do have my coffee in it because it's just getting light outside right now. But it's being able to find those moments. I don't know if you've ever gone to a wake and people are sharing stories about whoever it is that died, and people will be in tears, sobbing, and then someone will share a really funny story, and all of a sudden everybody is hysterical. That's part of the release.
Yeah.
So it's not just sobbing uncontrollably when you're dealing with grief. You can be laughing, you can be crying, you can be still, but acknowledging whatever it is that's going on, and just having an awareness of what's true and honest.
Yeah, and I would like to just sort of say, so when and there's a loop here. There's a reason for this. When I first started out almost 2 decades ago, learning how to harness my skills to help other people, I started doing like with tarot readings or oracle card readings. And I can't tell you how many people came to me and that I was able to recognize and refer them outwards because of, at the time, I was earning a degree in psychology. But people would come to me when really they were in trauma and needed a Marianne, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? By the way, so this is just something coming through from the universe right now for everyone else, is if you find yourself looking towards the psychics or the tarot readings or the astrology in a way that is sort of addictive after or during some sort of life event like that, or you find a friend doing that, it's really easy to do, right? Turn towards an expert, turn towards Mary Ann, turn towards, somebody that is qualified. And so I was able to recognize, hey, girlfriend, or at the time I was also helping men because I was a generalist. It was, hey, friend, I'm going to refer you to a psychologist. I'm not saying you're crazy. Like that would always come out of my mouth, but like, or to a grief expert or a trauma expert, because there's something deeper going on here. So the universe just kind of wanted me to let that flow through.
That's an excellent point to make, Amanda. I think that quite often, and I know that I did this from time to time in my past, that this will fix everything. This will make it all better. All I need is this, or all I need is that. And there's this constant chasing of, oh, this will be the answer.
Yes.
And all of those things can help, but you still have to be honest with whatever is going on inside. You can't ignore that something external is not going to fix. It will help, but unless you work with it, you can't just put it on and expect that to fix it. It's the Band-Aid idea, when there has to be a give and take. There has to be a release of some sort.
Yes, it's like if you have surgery and have ever gotten stitches, or like they do the under stitches and then the glue. I know this from experience. You have to rest. It's not okay, go ahead, go, but like your body needs rest. And then an example of working with like the emotions and the grief and working through that, it's like you have to do your part. You can't just put the Band-Aid on or have the surgery and then walk out like nothing has happened. And
Right.
there's a wonderful, so working with Marianne, there's a wonderful balance of still being able to address your life, your business, your, your spouse, your kids, your friends, whatever it is, the household needs, the chimney, falls down, whatever it is, to be able to handle that and still process your grief without it being overwhelming, without it exploding in your face, which is what Marianne's been talking about a little bit here with the making peace with your past. I would love to hear you talk more about some upcoming, and of course
The lawn guys.
yes, the lawn guys are here. So sorry.
No, it's just a little hum in the background.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Excellent. Because it's really loud over here.
Well, there's a couple of things that I have coming up. This Saturday, I'm doing a virtual retreat. As I mentioned earlier, I did an in-person one a few weeks ago, and the response was so positive, and there were a lot of people from across the country that wanted to be able to come. So I decided to do a virtual version this coming Saturday. It's from 9 a.m. to 12:30 Pacific time. So that'll be a little later for those on the East Coast. And you'll have to do the time change for around the world. I don't have all of that in my head, but it'll be noon Eastern time that will start. And it'll be about 3.5 hours. And after the retreat, someone said that there was a perfect blend of the right brain and the left brain going through the intuitive and the concrete through the retreat. So you get in touch with yourself and make peace with the past, get present, and then plan for the future. And then every month I have a virtual coffee break on the first Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 Eastern time, that's free. If you are curious and want to get to know me and a little bit about the work I do, and just have a nice, safe place to bond with some other women. Usually it's women that show up, men are welcome, but women just are drawn. So
You are
it's
not alone.
right.
Seriously, you're not alone. I know it feels very isolating with what, like, going through the grief process, but you're not alone. And to have that community of we are in this together, it lightens the burden, and you facilitate such wonderful, even though everybody is coming with different types of grief, I'm using the quotes there, you facilitate this wonderful bonding experience where everybody feels safe and comfortable.
And seen and heard. I think that's the biggest thing. Quite often that's all people really need, to be seen and heard. And that's a big part of what I do. And that's what I've been doing in companies right now, corporations. I've been an extension of HR offering support to the remote employees because they feel disconnected.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not sure what's going on. The pandemic has been an awakening for a lot of companies, and the employees need to know that they're seen. So now leadership is starting to step up to the plate.
Yes, and what a great platform for people that we work mostly with entrepreneurs, right? Business owners, but there's a whole nother side that goes on within corporate, and the bigger the corporation, sometimes the bigger the disconnect, just because there's so much that things can get lost in the equation. And so what a wonderful way to also say, hey, there are ways, even when you're working for somebody else, and if you feel your corporation, or maybe a friend is talking about what's going on over at their job in their corporation, hey, talk to HR about Marianne, because it is so needed. And it is such, again, a warm hug, and making people feel like they're included, the seen, the heard, they're part of this bigger thing. Right? When you have a big corporation that has thousands of employees.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's the confidentiality too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's why I didn't mention any like mention anyone by name. But I have actually passed on your name, by the way, to quite a few people. I'm like, you need to tell HR about Marianne if you're comfortable, because it sounds like your corporation needs this. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I mean it as in we want everyone to feel seen, heard, included, comfortable, able to do their job. Even if you're doing a job, you're still an expert in that role. That is why they have hired you.
Right. And then if there are things going on in your personal life, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the entrepreneurs. Even when you're doing a job for somebody else, you're not able to bring your full self to your job when there's your parents need care, your kids need care, you're looking for a college, and you're not sure how you're going to pay the DWP bill. So it's you can't bring your full self into your job. So there's helping employees become present without feeling judged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you can see, there's so many sides, same sides of the coin, I think is what I'm trying to say here. Mm-hmm. And how it can be addressed in a way that allows everybody. And that's what I love about you, like that inclusion, right? That big, warm, cozy hug. And I would love for everybody to pop on over to your group. I'll have you put in the comments the links, so that way if they want to come to one of the coffee hours, and of course the retreat would be a great way to really get that full immersion with Marianne and the other participants, of feeling seen and heard, to really get your feet wet if you're thinking, oh, some of this has rung true for me. Some of this has rung true for me. So Marianne will put the link down. And of course, you have questions, type below. She'll pop back around. I'll pop back around. I'll take a look at it throughout the next day, so that you are seen and heard here on this live, even though it's after the broadcast, because that is so important. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us, or impart the wisdom? You've imparted so much wisdom. Any final thoughts here?
I think giving people permission to feel and acknowledging that's part of being a human being. There's nothing wrong or broken or needs fixing. It's just paying attention and allowing. So be a human. It's okay.
Oh, thank you so much for being here live with us today, Marianne. I super appreciate it, and I know everybody watching appreciates as well. Oh, I'm just taking a deep breath, sending out all the love to you, Marianne, sending out to all the love to anyone watching live or on replay. And of course, we'll speak again soon. Look for the links coming soon. And until then,
thank you. Bye-bye.